Good morning, Southern California, AM 1220 KHTS. Joe, Fred Arnold on the Southern California Business Spotlight. I'm joined by Steve Schaefer. Steve Schaefer is a mortgage professional and a reverse mortgage specialist at American Family Funding. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thanks, Fred. Happy to be here.
Been on the show many times, and what I'm excited about today is there's updates to the reverse mortgage program, and I asked Steve to come in and share with you what they are.
Yeah, what's happening, Fred, is that the FHA has sent out a mortgagee letter changing the rules on lending limits and the MIP insurance effective a week from yesterday, actually.
Now, are they
October
good changes? Because a lot of times the changes
Well,
are not as good, right? This one,
You got it.
perhaps.
Initially, what happened, we didn't get much notice on it because they had to get it done to meet the federal fiscal year, which begins October 2nd. Initially, it disrupted some people because lending limits were reduced about 20%. So some people who were considering a reverse mortgage, they had to get in quickly if they needed to pull money out to pay off an existing mortgage. But they're also dropping the ongoing mortgage insurance premium that FHA charges.
So
there are a lot of good points beginning.
Sure. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, what they're doing is two things. Basically, the lending limit is dropping about 20% for most people age 62 and over who are considering a reverse mortgage. Also, the ongoing mortgage insurance is changing from 1.25% to 0.5%. So you figure that's 3/4 of a point, Fred.
Yeah, that's significant.
That's significant. And what this means is that when you really add the interest that you're paying on the reverse mortgage and the ongoing mortgage insurance premium, say if we were at 5% and 1.25%, you're at 6.25%. Now you're dropping from 6.25% to 5% plus that 0.5% for the insurance premium. You're dropping to 5.5% effectively. What the upshot is, it makes your loan grow slower and you retain more equity longer in your home. And this is a concern for a lot of people because they want to leave a home with some equity for their children and everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And this kind of preserves the equity over the long term. The other important thing is it makes people more mindful of how they use their equity.
In what way?
In what way? Because you want to think about what's the best way to use the equity in your home as part of your retirement. And
As a vehicle, right? As a vehicle,
Exactly.
as one of your pillars.
Exactly, as part of your, I usually talk about it like a triangle, but it's one of the key things, a pillar, a leg, or whatever. If you got equity in your home, use it. But I run across most people who do a reverse mortgage are paying off an existing mortgage balance. And a lot of times it's a first and a home equity line of credit or a second that they took out. And what this drop in the limit does is that it's making people who took out that second, it might be a little bit more difficult for them to fit in under the limit. They'd have to bring some cash to the transaction. So a lot of times I'll have people who are considering taking equity out of their home, but if they're 62 and over, they've got to realize if they have a first, they can use the reverse mortgage, tie it all in together, and get in under that limit. Mm-hmm. Why go to a second and then go a few years later convert it? So let's think ahead, and that's where the planning comes in.
Quick story. Tell me a quick story about how you're able to help somebody get in a reverse mortgage, or perhaps pay off the benefit to it.
Yeah, well, I think you know there's one couple we just closed last week. They were in a situation, they worked off, they had a first and a second, and they were able to pay that off, and they got in under the old rules. So that worked out well for them. But a lot of people.
And how much money were they able to save per month that they didn't have to come up with?
Well, they were able to save about $2,500 a month. Mm-hmm. Plus, they established the line of credit. So what I'm saying is, this is a good thing because they can establish the line of credit with the reverse as opposed to going in an interim and then trying to get the payoff.
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. Now, I know you've helped people in the past maybe set up a line of credit to pay ongoing medical.
Exactly, yeah. There have been people, a lot of times, people have had an adult daughter or somebody like that who has had to help mom pay off for existing in-home care. And that's worked out well for them, too, mm-hmm. as well. There was a woman down in the Santa Clarita Valley who was in that situation. And it was a strain for the daughter, too, because she was like, in her early 60s herself. Mom was in her late 80s. And she's kind of taking money out of her IRA to cover mom's costs. And by doing the reverse mortgage, it took that burden off the daughter and just made everybody much happier.
Yeah.
So
I love what you're doing. Steve, real quickly, 30 seconds or less, tell us about the process you go through. You meet with them, and how's that process look?
I meet with them, and do an analysis for them, gather information, and see what their situation is. Take the information back, do an analysis, and then we look at the analysis and discuss their options. We also go through like a financial assessment to make sure that it's right for them, and then they have to do counseling on their own. I can give them a list. I can't recommend people specifically, and after that I can take the application. That's where my value really comes in. Particularly with these changes, you will need someone to kind of be a consultant for you or a specialist as you consider a reverse mortgage. It's not as simple as just going online and saying, okay, I'm going to get a reverse mortgage. Especially now with these changes, you've got to give it some thought and be mindful of how it's impacting. But overall, changes are good.
Yep, and Steve, no charge whatsoever for Steve to run this analysis, get the information from a local expert. Steve, those that want to reach out to you?
Phone number, 661-505-4803. Email, steve@affloans.com.
Great. Steve Schaefer, a mortgage professional, reverse mortgage specialist at American Family Funding. Well, hope you enjoyed this edition of the Southern California Business Spotlight. I'm your host, Fred Arnold, on AM 1220 KHTS.